Okay, so the next step is to add order items to the order. As it stands right now, we expose on our order class a order items property, which is of type list of order item. Since it's a list of T, you could easily add items to the order. You would be able to go from any consuming code, myOrder.orderItems.add blah, right? I'm not sure that's such a good idea. Ideally, we would want to do some sanity checks and perform an order item total and order total calculations at the moment that we add an item to the order. So I'm beginning to think that it was a mistake to simply make this just a list of T, or at least it was a mistake to make it a public property. We're going to need to figure that out in just a bit. So let's design the process of adding order items to an order with a unit test. Let's go back over to our order service test. Where are you? There you are. And I think the order service class is still the right class to delegate this responsibility to. In my mind, it should provide all the services that the order class needs in order to function. So let's start there and then see where we go from there. So let's go. Public void add order item, and we're going to add a valid part, and the outcome would be an adds order item. All right, I want to adorn this with the test method attribute. And so when you do arrange, and once again, I'm going to need all this stuff. Man, I really need to refactor this at some point. I'm not comfortable with all of this. Here we need a valid contract ID. Okay, and then we're going to need an order. So var order equals order service dot create order, and we're going to pass in that contract. Good. And now we want a var part equals, and I guess we'll have a part service somewhere. We haven't thought that through just yet. So what I'll need is something like this. Var part service equals new part service. So we'll need to add that. And so the part will be part service dot get part by ID, and then I'll need a valid part ID of some sort, probably be a constant here in my unit test. And then once we've done all of that, we can actually act. I'm feeling like I've bitten off more than I can chew. I didn't foresee all of this at the time when I was doing it, but now I'm feeling like maybe we tackled too much for one session. But I need to create the add order item. So I'm going to pass in the order. I'm going to pass in the part that I want to add, and I'm going to also pass in the quantity, and that should probably do it. That should be everything I need to add a part of a given quantity to an order, I think. But how would I test this? Let me give some thought to that right off the bat here. So assert, I can test, maybe there's something that gives me the total number of items in the order. And again, I don't want to use the list of T anymore, so I'll need a special property that will expose that count somehow. So let's do this. R equal order item count. Let's get rid of that with the escape button. And then 1. So we would expect after we've added a single item to the order that the order item count would be 1. That makes sense. And then what we could do next is something like this. R equal, and we would need, now I'm going way off on a limb here, but I'm going to need a subtotal because that was part of the requirements. And I guess I can do that. So, you know, I just have a magic number sitting out there. There's a lot of things I need to fix here. Okay. So I'm not so happy about this because it really touches a lot of parts. Ideally, I could keep things really simple. However, as I've come to realize, this is really the crux of the system, being able to add a part to an order. It'll naturally touch a lot of moving pieces, including the contract, the order items, and the parts. So I may need to backtrack a little bit here and implement the part service and the part. I may have gotten ahead of myself a little bit. Also, the way that I have designed this unit test, I don't have access to the individual order items outside of the order class. So, for example, currently I can't easily look at the individual order item to ensure that the subtotal is correct. I have no access to the individual items because I was so afraid of exposing order items as a list of T and giving full access to everything you could do with the list of T, right? So I have to ask myself, do I really need that? Well, you know, I can't say no. I actually do need that. So we do have a requirement that says that we should be able to display the items in the order on screen as well as a running total. So no matter what, this unit test is not going to really be representative of what I want. But what I'm trying to guard against is making the list of order item, the list of T, public. List of T provides too much access to the collection. So right now I'm feeling a little bit confused. I could tackle the parts I know, but I prefer to tackle the parts that trouble me first. And so let me take a second pass at this and maybe look at this with some fresh eyes. So let me start by maybe changing this around a little bit. Maybe instead of just having this as a void method, maybe it should actually return a type of part. And then I could get rid of this right here, like so. And since this is part of the order service, maybe I could do that as well. Let me just get rid of that. Let me just create a part with the part service. So let me do this. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So I still want to do part service.get part by ID and pass in a val part ID. And then here, what I want to do, I'm creating an order item is what I really want. Okay. And so that's really the first step. So now what I can do is come down here and assert.isInstance of type order item should be a type of order item. Okay, that's better. Assert r equal order item dot product. Passing the product. Okay. And then let's go assert dot r equal and the order item total is 100. Okay, I don't know that this unit test is quite right, but I like where I'm heading with this. I feel better about this second pass. I think the problem was I was trying to both create an order item instance and add it to the order all in one method call, but that had some negative side effects. But now the order item is kind of the main focus. I'm creating an order item, and I still have to worry that a list of order item is too visible, but that's a concern for another use case. I've rescoped this one to be all about creating an order item, not adding it to an order. We'll worry about that next. So now that I feel better about that, I can stop for a moment and I can implement the part and the part service. Of course, I'll do that with a unit test, and I feel bad about leaving this undone with so much broken. I mean, I can't even compile at this point, but I feel like now that I kind of have a direction, I may need something a little bit more tangible. So we'll kind of come back to this. I guess probably the best thing for me to do at this point is I'm just going to comment this whole thing out until I can come back to it a couple of lessons from now. So that makes me feel a little bit better. I can still, hopefully, everything will pass. It'll compile and pass. Looks like it did. So on the one hand, I don't feel like I accomplished very much in this lesson, but because I don't really have any production-worthy code to show for my efforts, nor do I even have a working unit test. However, I do have a solid direction on something that was the core of this entire system. So now I'm just going to tackle some of the fringe parts and try to pull it all together. And I'm going to do that in the next lesson when I tackle parts in the part service. So we'll see you there. Thank you.